What if while you drove, your electric car charged? Or if you parked to run an errand and instead of plugging in, your SUV topped up for 20 minutes all on its own while you went into the store? I'm Jer Stays, and this is your Daily Detroit for Thursday, February 17th, 2022. Detroit is getting the first mile of electric road in the country, but the project and the technology raises a lot of questions. How will this work? What happens if it rains? What about seasons? And much more. To help answer them, I called up Electreon's Stefan Tongur in Los Angeles. That's the company that will be making this happen in Detroit. Electreon already has contracts for roads like this in their native Israel, as well as Germany, Italy, and Sweden. We'll get started after I thank our supporters today on buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. A number of people reached out and said that they wanted to support us as a one-time thing, that it fit their budget situation better. So consider supporting the work, buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. All right, let's just jump into it. Joining me virtually, Stefan Tongur. He is the vice president of Electreon. He's joining us from Los Angeles. Welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And good to talk to you because there's been some buzz around the project that your company is doing in Detroit, a mile-long charging experiment with being able to charge cars while they're moving or while they're parked. So how did this come together? Because I think this kind of blows people's minds, the idea that they could charge while on a roadway.
We couldn't be more excited to be here in Detroit and in Michigan because really the governor of Michigan, she announced an RFP just a couple of months ago, and this tender aligns perfect with our mission to bring wireless charging, maybe it, as you said, in motion or while standing still, to vehicle fleets and electrify them. And we're coming from, for us, this is not just a experiment. We've actually have several pilots already that work and operational on public road in Europe. So we have in Israel, in Sweden, in Germany, in Italy, and based on all those pilots and projects, we have a lot of experience going down together with fantastic and amazing partners, both public and private, to Michigan and Detroit, and to make this a success that is beyond, I would say, a pilot. So very exciting to come here and be here with you.
Interesting to know that this is not your first look at this. When you talk about fleets, my first thought that comes to mind, I remember in my younger days working for companies with trucks when I used to drive box trucks and anything else. The idea could be then is you could just like pull in, park, and charge overnight. And you don't have to connect anything. Your pad could be ready to charge vehicles.
Exactly. And imagine that you have this kind of fleet, which is maybe a bit larger, and you're going to electrify that. I mean, there are a couple of barriers, right, that comes to your mind. I mean, you need kind of huge battery investment, or, you need the range on these vehicles, right? And suddenly when you utilize these vehicles, they need to stop and charge, right? So you want to have high uptime, but it's not really compatible. So what if we can charge vehicles when they need instead? Instead of taking the vehicles to charge and stop it to charge, we can charge the vehicle when it's needed. That might be when it stops during the night, as you mentioned, or while driving and while it's operation, or when it comes to the loading dock. So this is just one example, and you can do the same if you have a bus fleet, for example, or if you have a taxi fleet or last mile delivery fleet. So, really making charging seamless and offering a model where these fleets can ultimately lower the total cost of ownership. So that's what we're trying to achieve here.
So I think about the idea of putting this, say, on a road that's well-traveled or something that's on a path that that vehicles are going to be going down, and it's something that could really give people a boost with their electric vehicle. Is that the idea? And from what I hear from you, it's not just staying in place, but it's also while you're moving. That just kind of boggles the mind. How does that happen?
In essence, it's the same technology, whether you're stand still or move. And the Electreon has, developed this technology with in mind that you can move in charging, in motion charging, and it's a very modular system. So the coils are about 1.6 meters, sorry for a metric, and they are each independent of its other. So we connect them to the grid and a management unit, and that allows us to basically do some sort of plug and play where we can, charge any type of vehicle. May it be a passenger vehicle with one receiver, a van with two, a bus with three, or a truck with more. So we can basically accommodate the power need and demand that the vehicle has, depending on what vehicle it is. And then we can charge it either by standing still or moving. So it's the same kind of primary coil, secondary coil, technology is the same. So we'll go there where we make the most sense for the user. So traffic lanes, absolutely, there dynamic charging and charging while motion brings huge benefit because you have more availability on the car and can increase your range or uptime or decrease battery sizes or grid connection. So once you have it, it's not science fiction, and that's what we've done in Europe in our project. So it's happy to be here in a year and talk with you again and see when we have things on the ground.
I think about little things like if you could get extra charge, well, you're at a stoplight or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be the entire road every single mile. A very simple question, and I apologize. When there's a bunch of electricity coming from the road, from a safety perspective, how does that work for people? Because I got that a lot from people when I said, hey, we're going to talk to somebody around this. Their first thought was, how do they not get shocked? I know it may seem silly, but it's a very practical thing.
It's a natural thing to ask because, first off the top of Electreon's mind is safety and to make the system safe, right? So wireless charging is completely safe to the propulsion, to people who are driving the vehicles and, pedestrians or any type of communication route. So there are standards already that we're obeying. And the basic thing is that the vehicles that charge the vehicles, you need to have an active subscription with your receiver, then you'll be able to charge. And once you're not, the system is passive. So regardless of the system is on and off, it's always safe for taking energy from the grid, and there are already standards in place, protocols, and this has been demonstrated by us in the previous, as I mentioned, pilots with many public authorities making sure that that is the case, and we'll follow the kind of regulations here in the US as well and make sure that this is on the top priority of Electreon and our partners' plan.
Now, different than some places in America that have kind of constant weather, and one of the reasons why I think Michigan's a great place to test automotive technology is we have all 4 seasons. And notoriously, our roads, and you've been here, but our roads, they deal with winter. They freeze, they frost, they heave, they do those kind of things because of those temperature changes and because the ice gets in there, stuff like that. How does this technology deal with something like that?
So happily, we're glad that, we're going into this with a bunch of experience. And one of those countries I mentioned is Sweden, where I happen to come from and manage the projects there. And there we have similar weather. So I felt very much at home when I was in Detroit now on Friday, actually. The only problem was I forgot, or I left my winter jacket in Sweden. So that was the only issue I had. Back to the issue is that we already tested and demonstrated this on roads with snow, with ice, with the winter conditions. And the good thing is, it doesn't have any impact on the performance. It shows that, we can charge anyhow. And we have the kind of solutions together with our partners to figure this out. And also, we've also had deployments on much warmer climate, like in Tel Aviv in Israel, where it's very hot, right? And I think the basis of it, and it goes back to your question about safety, that you don't have any kind of contact in between, no mechanical contact, right? So when it's wireless, when it's induction, you don't have any, it goes through snow, water, whatever salt, it's no problem. And you don't have any hazard, you don't need to touch it. So that makes all those kind of questions much easier, actually. So it's an enabler as we see it.
When you say induction, that makes me kind of think of the higher end iPhones where you can just place it on a charger and it charges. Is it a similar kind of idea?
Yeah, the base is yes, you have a primary and the secondary coil. And then what we are doing, obviously, is much more, let's say, higher power, higher efficiency, much better, in terms of alignment than mobile phone charging. But, the concept has been there for many years, since Nikola Tesla, I would say 1891, when he demonstrated megawatt in wireless power transfer. So yeah, it's not dissimilar from applications that we already know of.
So will this be something that is an add-on to a vehicle? Will you need to work with manufacturers? Like, how is that going to go? Is this a special thing that will add an additional feature or additional cost or just built into the thing? How do you expect that to be?
That's correct. So we attach a kind of receiver, which we call as this, it's a coil underneath the vehicle, and we work already together with several OEMs. I mean, Ford, obviously, we're very proud to work with them in this project. We also have projects in Europe where we work with Stellantis, in Italy, and Iveco. We have a project in Germany with Volkswagen, and others as well. We have Haiger. So what we do is we can both work with a vehicle that is a retrofit. We can work in design vehicles, from scratch, and we are focused on the infrastructure. So what we're going to do is basically offer IPs for the receiver for free, and by that create compatibility between different vehicles on the charging infrastructure, right? Because we want high utilization and increase the cost of ownership of this infrastructure. So that's the way we think we'll work together hand in hand, and it will be an easy kind of installation to the vehicle or integration with just a plug-in for energy and communication, make it safe. And this project in particular, I would say, one of the goals is also to attract and invite partners and different OEMs and use cases and users to come here and do it here together in Detroit and make sure that we can grow from there.
In the United States, like we have challenges where one auto manufacturer even uses a different plugin than the rest of them do, right? That interoperability is extremely important to make sure that that happens.
Exactly. And that's why we think it's very, very important that we reach out the hands to everybody. We are working actively in standardization committees like the SAE. We are, co-leading those kind of chairs when it comes to our technology to make sure that, they come here, they see the benefit of it. Because today, if you talk with OEMs, one of the big challenges is, charging infrastructure. And if we can figure that out together, I think it's just an enabler when we go to higher kind of levels of fleet electrification, because we're still at very, very low, amount of electric vehicles. As we grow there, we think that this could be an open charging platform for OEMs and invite them. So I think we will see a lot of positive direction here there when it comes to wireless charging, and even between wireless charging companies. So that's the perspective we're taking into this, more a holistic one.
Now, I understand as we're recording this that the exact place is not selected, but can you talk a little bit about what the investment will look like here in Detroit? What should we be excited to see here?
Now we enter a discussion with MDOT as partners, and we'll figure out exactly the site election. Obviously, the consortium, the partners, we have an idea, and we want to validate it also with strong use cases. So what we can expect, I think, is an electric road in a more urban-ish kind of environment where we can demonstrate the feasibility of wireless charging for different use cases and hopefully different OEM or vehicles. And by doing that, we can show that there is an alternative way for charging infrastructure, which is future-proof, which can work with AVs, which doesn't have to have a huge grid impact, which doesn't mean any kind of impact on roads themselves, and hopefully build an industry here where we can grow from Detroit, make investments here, make sure that we can grow, our commercial cases, and then move to other places, to other states, to other cities, and make sure that this becomes kind of a test bed where we can grow from and create something which is for the future of charging infrastructure. So that's invitation to all people living in Detroit to join us in this journey. It will be fascinating.
You mentioned this will lessen grid impact. How will that happen? I'm curious about that because that's one of the biggest pushbacks with electric vehicles. How are we going to handle it with our grid? And if you're able to lessen the impact, that seems like a good thing. How does that happen?
Because we can charge while both driving or standing still. We don't need to have, as today, let's say you have a fleet and then either you stand still and charge a big fleet, while it's sleeping, or you have very high power when it stands still during a lunch break or something like that, right? And if you have a big fleet while standing still, you need a huge grid connection. That's just a fact, which is troublesome, right, for the grid. So if we instead can spread the power and the energy demand over time and space, right, because the vehicle is you can only charge one vehicle at this single point of time, and you spread that out, then you can decrease the power need and you can decrease the grid impact. So in other way, we can shave the peaks of the grid and make it more compatible with what we have already today and lessen the burden on the grid.
So if people want to know more, if they want to get involved, if there's opportunities for people, where can they go?
I mean, they're welcome to come to us. I mean, we will answer, and we have, great partners involved already with DTE when it comes to the grid, with Jacobs when it comes to engineering, Hewitt is involved when it comes to the construction advisory, Next Energy, the community, management of stakeholders. So MDOT, obviously, the city, it's not just an Electreon project. I want to emphasize that we have really strong, partners and stakeholders here that take people's considerations, really serious. And we want to make this a success. And this is what we've done in other places by inviting people and make sure that, the answers and the questions that they have, that we have the answers for that satisfies them.
I went over to your website, electreon.com. There's some really neat explainers, some neat videos there to see how you've integrated it. I mean, I think key to me, and I think some people here didn't realize that, your company has been working on this for quite a while. So although there will be things that you learn, this is not the first time you've ever done something like this. And so it's exciting to see it kind of get perfected here in Detroit.
Exactly. So we're happy. Our history of the company Electreon, we already are kind of listed. We're listed on the stock exchange in Tel Aviv. We have, over 60 global partners. We have a road to market. We have a commercial deal already in Israel with 200 electric buses. So Electreon is in a perfect position to bring our knowledge and experiences and work together with nation-leading companies, right? And public authorities like City of Detroit, like MDOT, and the state of Michigan to I would say, advance electrification and e-mobility and the future of electromobility. And this exactly the vision that they have is what we shared and what we share. And there's already Congresswoman Lawrence. She wrote a bill introducing Congress advocating for wireless charging, and I think that's just it points to make that proof that we are in the right place, we're in the right partners, to bring this technology to the U.S.
Stefan Tongur, Vice President of Electreon, thank you so much for your time on Daily Detroit. I appreciate you getting into the weeds on this with me. I feel like I learned a lot.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Looking forward to the next one. Have a good one.
And with that, we are done. Thank you, Randy Walker, for your tech help today. Tomorrow, Devin O'Reilly joins me for our Big Friday show. If you've got feedback on this episode or have topic suggestions for the future, hit me up, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Jer Stays, and I'll see you around Detroit. And with that, we are done for today. Thanks to Randy Walker for his talcum help. Talcum with a new scent by Randy.